Hello and welcome to another wonderful edition of the First Rate Legacy podcast. We are so glad that you have come back to join us as we go on this journey looking at the legacy of First Rate and how love, give, serve, and enjoy, the four core values of First Rate, have been embedded into the DNA of First Rate from the very beginning. And that's exactly what this podcast is specifically about, is the very beginning, 30 years ago, of First Rate. And I get to talk with my favorite co-founder. Don't let the other co-founder know that I said that. Keep it on the down low.
I'll keep it on the down low.
Our one and only executive chair and co-founder, Trina Stone. Trina, how are you doing?
Blake, I'm doing really good. And I'm so glad you invited me to be a part of this podcast.
Of course. It's always it's been such a trip to get to talk to everybody and get all these stories and get to share them. And I've been looking forward to this one, and it's a fun time because you were there. This whole podcast wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't exist if it wasn't for First Rate and the four core values that found it 30 years ago. So take us back to 30 years aw, back in the time of Walkmans and
yes, I can take you back to desktops and mainframes. And when you first asked me about this and you said, from your point of view. So I'm going to describe just a little bit of my point of view in the first weeks and months of First Rate. Yeah. I am at a desk in my dining room that we set up for me to use with a telephone on it and ledger papers, because I'm going to be doing all the accounting and accounts receivables. And Dave is on the other side of me. I'm looking at Dave. He's sitting across from me at another desk, a tabletop, and he has a compact computer and a phone and a printer. And I'm looking at him, I'm going, okay, let's make some phone calls today, Dave. You're the salesperson, you're the tech person, you're going to be doing a little programming. And I didn't have very much to do. I did have 3 children at the time, 6, 4, and 2. So I was getting up and down from my desk quite a bit.
Yeah, I was supposed to say, that's definitely quite a lot.
Yes. I was trying to keep kids quiet while he was on the phone with prospective clients, and he was diligent about making phone calls. Sort of what our sales team does today and our prospecting team does, where they're making phone calls a lot. And he was trying to recruit prior clients of his that he worked for 8 years with his performance measurement software. And he knew that if he called them, that for surely they would change over to his company because he was going to service them well. And I do remember about eight months in, when we hadn't had a client sign yet, I was going, oh, Dave, maybe you should leave that desk and go find a real job. He didn't like that too much.
Yeah, but, I definitely can't imagine that wasn't a that comment wasn't meant lightly.
Well, what he said to me was, I think just a little more time, Trina, just give me a little more time.
Yeah.
And December 1st, we got a call from Rick Manning at PNC. And he said, January 1st, PNC is going to be transferring all their maintenance work over to you, First Rate, Dave. And I tell you, our household did a lot of yelling and screaming that day.
I bet.
Our first client after 9 months of no clients. So when January 2nd, 1992 arrived in the mail, there was a check from PNC for $28,000, and we thought we'd hit the lottery. We had hit the lottery.
Yeah, I mean, you had, yeah.
And of course, David wanted to go out and spend it immediately on computers and all kinds of things for the business. And I went, this is going to have to last 12 months. Remember, it's an annual contract. So I'm going to divide it by 12, and that's what you get to spend this month. And he looked at me and goes, really? But we did, when we got that check deposited into First Rate's bank account, Our very first check, Blake, was a check to our church for 10% of that revenue. And we had both decided in that 9 months of no business, God, you said this is going to be a business that I'm going to create. And he did, and he has, and he will continue to create, as long as I think that we are a viable business and have a service and products that service the wealth management industry. We wrote that check for $2,800 and sent it to we walked it in on Sunday, put it in the offering plate and said, okay, First Rate has been given this revenue and we want to tithe to this family, our church family, who had been with us that whole 9 months. They were bringing us food. They were, really being our family during that hard time of starting a business.
That support structure they had for you, I hear the stories, and it never gets old to hear how church really is community and family in moments like that. And so it's great to hear how that community and family is what made First Rate possible.
Right, exactly. They were the ones that sustained us during the weak time, the low time. But I do remember calling that $2,800 check, and I went, Dave, I feel God has directed us, that he will bless us. And as long as he's blessing us, we are going to bless others, not only with our revenue, 10% of our revenue. I really feel like God wants us to give service-wise to our community, because he did call us to be a business that was interwoven in the community. And from the very beginnings, we would volunteer. First, it started out at schools, volunteering at our children's school in PTA and Little League and all the things that community provides for students, young students. So Dave and I, because we were only 2 employees at First Rate, we were very involved heavily in PTA volunteerism and going to the school and being part of Christmas parties. And then with our church, we were very involved with our church and serving members of our church, whether it be at Bible studies or going out and servicing the community from our church, giving to the poor, providing meals on wheels, things like that. We did that early on, and we thought, it'd be neat to let our employees do this when we finally have employees.
Yeah. And that's the thing is because, a lot of people know that you do these things and you promote it and you have your employees participate in it as well. But it really was from check one ingrained in First Rate's DNA. And what I love is that I just remembered is that Rick Manning, who made that call, with First Rate Giving, we still partner with Rick Manning to support a charity that he is a part of every year.
Right. So it's getting him involved in his community. He got involved with a boxing club in his community that was put on by the police association. And they provided a gym for unfortunate or less fortunate children to come to after school to learn boxing, but not just boxing, weight training, working out. And when you walk in that gym today, there's a boxing ring that has our core values in the corners. And I think, that's just a testimony of what God wants to do to create and recreate and multiply what he wants to do in community through business.
And it's a testament to how legacy can just be built from the smallest of things, done consistently over and over, and with this genuine heart behind it. That legacy can become a ring with the names on it in Pennsylvania. How often do you go to Western Pennsylvania? You visited and seen it in person, but I mean, we often think of only the communities that we're really connected to, and yet that's our direct neighbors. But yet, right off the bat, the community of First Rate's going well beyond just the Arlington area. Even though your service was very much ingrained in the Arlington area and still gets served by yourself and the rest of the employees. And so
but what our hope is that every employee finds themselves able to give to their communities where they're from, because we do have a lot of remote workers. We do have a lot of people that work more than an hour away. So they're in different communities, and we're hoping that we inspire them or encourage them, give them time to, give them talent to, give them money to go into their community and make a difference. And there are a lot of our employees doing that, and I'm very grateful. And I'm thinking that if First Rate continues to foster that, promote that, that God will continue to bless us, and First Rate will continue for, we hope, 300 years, as long as we're relevant and as long as we're serving our clients, but also, most importantly, serving our communities.
No, and that is the thing, is that First Rate has gotten to enjoy to be a part of not just the Arlington community, but like you said, so many communities, and those communities get to enjoy First Rate's connection with them. And it's great to see the fun that we have together that comes just from starting with some service or some giving. And then it really just comes to, good old family fun.
Yes. And that we like to have fun. That word enjoy is not one of our core values for no reason. I remember early on, Dave said, I want to have fun at work. And I'm going, I've never worked for a company. I'd only had about 4 other jobs before we started First Rate. They didn't really talk about having fun at work. It was always get the work done and go home.
Yes. Efficiency.
Yes. And Dave is all about effectiveness and influence. And we can do that better when we see each other outside of work and in circumstances that we are having fun, laughing, enjoying, just doing things that bring joy to us. Get to know families that way too. We love it when we have family members come to First Rate living weekends, or when we have picnics that they come to, or the Thanksgiving feast, which I'm sad this year we're only going to have it be the employees because of COVID. But I hope next year we can get back to having family members come, because it's always a fun time for me, because I get to see kids that I haven't seen in a year maybe, or a half a year, and they've all grown 6 inches, 3 inches, 2 inches, and really becoming young adults even. I mean, we've watched kids go from 0 to 30. Can you believe that?
I can.
They're getting married to have their own kids, these children that were children of our employees. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah, and then some of those children end up becoming employees themselves of First Rate.
Right, exactly. I have one of those, which I'm glad that Catherine has chosen to come back to First Rate.
Yeah.
She was too when we started the company, so she knows our business.
She was right there getting, providing fun motivation during those early sales calls.
Exactly. I'll never forget when we hired our first salesperson, Jeff Clark. Catherine was probably 6 at the time, and she called him Jeff the client, because he was a client at first. And he came to work for us, and she always called him Jeff the client, never Jeff the salesman. And she just sent a picture of Jeff and herself at a football game just 2 weeks ago. And it was such a great picture of the two of them smiling. And he's just watched her grow up, and he's gone on and had his own kids, and actually named one of his first kids after Catherine Grace.
Oh, wow.
Her name is Molly Grace, but Grace came from Catherine Grace.
Wow. That's crazy.
Yeah, it is fun.
But yeah, that's just kind of the testament, once again, from those early days, just how the legacy, just the foundation was set, and the legacy grows and finds its way to pop itself back up in the most unique ways all across the spectrum. So
you asked me to talk about how I think First Rate will continue for the next 30, 60, 90, 300 years. It's all about growth. Personal growth, growth in our company, technology and software development that is relevant to the times. I just look at how Dave, when he first started First Rate, everything software-wise was on mainframes for big banks, and now everything's been on PCs, and now we're going to the cloud. It's incredible how, if you're relevant for the time and you change and create, technology and software and services and solutions that help people in what they're finding their circumstance to be, your company will survive. Yeah. It will grow. It will continue.
It's funny that you're in First Rate, founded in North Texas, in Arlington, in the North Texas area, and North Texas is notorious for having some of the most finicky soil out there for when you put your house down, to where foundation issues can be a problem. And so we have to have all these houses, and their foundations have to be a little malleable to adjust to the changing, but still have that same firm, strong essence to sustain itself and stand strong as it goes on. And I think that's definitely kind of what you're hinting at, is that same idea of being malleable, but having that core foundation that is deeply rooted and strong and doesn't waver. Right. It makes all the difference.
Yep. I say that the 4 values of First Rate are our 4 foundation pillars, and they keep us strong and sturdy. And as long as I think God continues to show us how to be going deeper in love, give, serve, and enjoy in our workplace, in our community, and then to the ends of the earth, I think he's going to continue to bless us.
Yeah. So 30 years ago, when you were right across the desk, trying to reminding Dave to make calls to get some sales, did you ever, in your wildest dreams, envision that in 30 years you'd be executive chair of a company that makes the revenue it does and donates the money it does on an annual basis, and has the reach it does, not just as a company itself, but just the employees, the connections, everything globally, community-wise, everything, the reach that this had. Did you come anywhere close to imagining anything like this?
Blake, no. I did not have any comprehension or even idea or vision for it. I was about the day-to-day details and just taking one step at a time, and then looked up and went, wow, God has blessed along the way. And I lived by a proverb that we learned in Afghanistan in 2002. Just keep walking so God can keep blessing. And I feel like that's what I've always done. I'm not looking 30 years out. I'm not looking 10 years out. I'm looking at today. Yeah. And going, okay, what can I do today to be the best, to have First Rate be its best, to have our employees be their best? What can we do today to have that happen? Yeah. And then I look up and go, whoa, look how far we've come. Look where we've come. And I just believe it's God blessing us because we've been obedient, and the importance of that is huge. So I'm hoping we're going to be able to instill in our next generation of employees that obedience to God's commands is the most important thing. And as long as you're walking those out, he's going to be walking with you to guide you and direct you and bless you in ways you can't even fathom.
Yeah.
Or even ask. I mean, I didn't know to ask for a $24 million company. I was just asking for money to pay the bills.
Yeah. I mean, like you said, back then, getting that first $28,000 check for an annual contract and hitting the lottery. And you did. I mean,
it was the lottery.
It was the lottery back then. And to now, that's not that, even though a new $28,000 contract is, any new $28,000 is great.
Right.
It doesn't feel like the lottery quite the same way. That's it.
Right. So if when people ask me, did you ever think that First Rate was going to be like it is today? And I go, no, I never imagined it in my wildest dreams.
Yeah. Well, that's also the thing, is that I think what's unique about First Rate is that it has its First Rate, the company has its own dream. And even though you and Dave had the dream to find it and start it and get it running, it kind of created its own dream as well. And as more and more people got into it, and it became a broader dream and a more all-encompassing dream, and it still is a dream that's growing and changing year after year, and it's crazy to see.
And that is a good thing, that it's growing and changing, and new people are coming in with new visions and new understandings of how to make First Rate better. So that's huge for us.
Yeah. So what has been your favorite difference from having the 2 desks in the living room to the company as it is now?
I love the fact that Dave and I both, as we walked through and began even the first office, that we had separate areas that we were a part of, and separate duties, separate work styles. But I think they were complementary. And I think what I like best about First Rate now is that we have a physical building, but very many remoters, very many international people that are helping us to grow. And it's not just about the desks sitting across the table from one another, although that's good.
Yeah.
I like people to be in relationship with one another, and I hope we continue to foster face-to-face meetings, just quality time together. It's hard during this season of COVID with the Zoom calls. I know people are face-to-face, but it's so different than being physically together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I like the model of our 2 desks facing each other and us being there together, but I see where the need is to expand and have more places for people to work and work from. So yeah, I like the fact that we can all bring our talents and energy to the company in different ways, and value those different ways.
And yet still kind of all bring our own little bit of our own living rooms to the company.
Yes. I like your office. It brings living room feel with people to meet with you one-on-one, and even out in the open area, 1-on-6. It's awesome.
Even if my office is a messy living room.
That's okay. We'll take it.
But no, it's great. So, well, are there any other last musings you'd like to share with our thousands of listeners out there for the First Rate Legacy podcast about the legacy of the first 30 years and the legacy of the 300 years to come? Any last musings you want to share with our guests?
I just hope that everyone feels empowered to bring about what they want First Rate to be for them. And in their involvement, they see a greater vision of what God has in store for us, and that they capture that calling of God. They hear his voice, they move on that voice. And I think as long as, like I said earlier, obedience to his calling and doing what he has asked us to do is a huge thing to carry First Rate forward. And I hope that we're opening up doors for people to be able to do that, to be empowered to do that.
Yeah.
So empowerment, people empowerment, vision casting, those are 2 important things that I think will carry First Rate forward.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's all because you followed that original calling. And that's the great thing, is that, calling can come in all shapes and sizes and sounds and non-sounds, for many, like we all heard the voice and heard that physical calling. Whereas for a lot of other people, it can be this thing where you look in hindsight and see, oh, that calling was placed with certain breadcrumbs I had no idea led me to where I am. And now I see it hindsight without ever having to hear a voice. But that calling is always there in some way, shape, or form. And it's and being able to find it and latch onto it and harness the energy of it is what creates that legacy and empowers you to make the difference you're called to make.
Right, exactly. All of us have a calling. Yeah. All of us have some way that we can participate and be an influencer and a leader.
Yes.
All of us can do that.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Trina, thank you so much. This has been an absolute pleasure.
Great, Blake. Thank you for inviting me. I have enjoyed about First Rate's beginnings and how I see us walking out into the next 300 years. I know I won't be here in 300 years, but I do pray that there's people that are going to carry on the legacy of First Rate.
Yeah, that definitely. I don't think either of us will be around in 300 years, even with the advances of modern medicine and science.
Exactly.
I don't see it coming, but it's exciting to see how that legacy can be sustained, and it's great to be a part of it now and help continue to build upon that legacy. So,
well, thank you for helping build it, Blake.
Well, and thank you for setting the foundation, and thank you for this wonderful interview, not interview, just dialogue. Thank you for this dialogue. And
thanks for the opportunity. I loved it.
And thank you to all our listeners. We appreciate y'all coming back, and we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of the First Rate Legacy podcast. So take care, and God bless everyone. Bye.
Thank you.